Good morning, everybody. This is Dr. Rao Kulusu. I'm starting my room on the weekly room. This is on my upcoming book, and I was going to introduce everybody to the contents of it and also welcome feedback of what they think about the uh, global issues. We're going to look into this, right? So, uh, let me tell you, I started this last week introducing why I ended up starting to write this book. It is almost getting completed, probably a couple of more months maybe, and it will come out. But I'm going to discuss the heading of each chapter, the gist of the chapter, and what led me to this kind of thinking, and how we can really um, see the moral problems in the light of ancient wisdom, how we can bring that into our practical life. It's not that we're going to move back to the ancient times. No, it is like looking at the wisdom with which they lived their lives and see whether they are adaptable to that. I could personally say some of those principles really helped me in my life, in terms of how I maintain my health, how I take care of my health, how I teach my patients how to be in charge of their health, and how to be peaceful inward, and how to be functioning in this world with some sense of balance within us, those kind of things. Last week, we kind of presented on the current problem we are all facing all over the world, the global heat crisis, and what it is leading us to multiple storms and floods and fires and what's called a climate whiplash, where it is very dry one day and the next day it has this flooding rains, that happened in unknown places like Dubai and like Arizona and Texas and all those places. So very hot, and suddenly they had floods. All that was because of the global heat, and we know human activity contributed a lot to the global heat crisis. That's why I presented it yesterday. How ancients were very much with the nature, worshipped the nature, and one with the nature. That kind of awareness, that kind of commitment to our resources is something maybe we should listen back as people. There are some people who work very dedicatedly towards helping the earth, but that is a very small percentage. Even at this stage, many of people are not aware of the extent of problem, or they are denying the problem, or they are really don't buy the science that what science has been wanting since so many. Even in my life, when I came to this country in 1980s, there was some group of people who were very aware, and they were really concerned about how our weather is taking to the wrong end. And they were working very, very diligently and committed and really passionate with that. But that didn't seem to have touched many people. And there were series of global meetings that happened, but really resulted in no improvement and further worsening of the playing with the environment, taking advantage of the environment, that kind of thing, right? Now we can see the ill effects of that in this atmosphere. Okay, so that was the first chapter, and I indicated a certain. You can go back and see the replay if you want to, but the chapter will be starting with that problem. Okay, that's the book will be started with the first chapter, that is on global crisis of the our weather patterns. Okay, and today I'm going to take another global problem, which is frequency of wars and the severity of the wars and the number of wars that have been fighting with each other on this earth for millennia. Right? There were always wars, they were always going on. But then the scale of wars in modern times is enormous. The suffering, the pay that we pay, everything is enormous. We are really paying through our teeth about sponsoring these wars. Even now, currently, we see Russia invaded Ukraine, and because of that, Europe will have a tremendous influx of immigration, and also a lot of countries are not going to have the food that they need to eat. There are several millions of people are going to into famine-like conditions because of this war, because it has interrupted with supply chain, and also it has interrupted with communications, and also travel and immigration. So many problems, right? So we are seeing it live. I'm not just imagining something out there. So this was also, I've been following people who were major thinkers on this problem since 1980s. First, I was in India. When I was in India, there were wars with Pakistan, and there were wars with China. Okay, even though I was too small, but we were kind of scared, and then we were led to hate Chinese and also Pakistanis because they are giving us problem, right? That kind of thing. So now, if you take the coming back to United States, then I noticed there were wars between Iran and Iraq. There were wars United States had with so many countries, right? It could be Cold War with Russia, or the Russian Empire at the time, or with they invaded Iraq, and then Afghanistan, and so many wars going on all the time. So, how much is we are responsible for that is what we're going to look at it today. See, the wars were fed to us like self-defense. Any country who invades the other country also says this is self-defense, but then there will nefarious intentions and selfish interests behind that. Either they want the oil, or they want to occupy the land because it enlarges their border. For example, China was always trying to annex some of the neighboring countries because it wants those lands as part of it. Now it's going to do with the Hong Kong. It has done with Bhutan. It has done with borders of India, and it is now doing with Hong Kong too. So it says it is mine. It is me that is important. I don't care whether they want to mix with us or not. I'm going to go and invade them. So that is causing tremendous global instability. That we all know that. So that's why I want to examine the war phenomena. Where does it start? How does it expand? How does it continue? They said somewhere, I think J. Krishnamurti said one time, at any given time, if you take and took a panoramic view of the world, there are so many wars going on. Some we may be aware of it, some we are not, but mostly there are so many wars that were there. So the small and large. Okay, if you take Ethiopia now, something happening there. If you take Hong Kong, something happening there. If you take Ukraine, obviously it is happening there, right? Like that, if you go into further details and further, there's always border tensions between India and China, border tensions between Israel and other countries, border tensions between Pakistan and India. So many places wars are thought of, contemplated, and executed. And if it is really advantage to them, they will go and destroy the other person. So millennia it is going on, right? So what is the responsibility of each individual in this situation? Should we close our eyes and say this is not in my family, it's not happening, it's out there somewhere? Or should we really understand the origins of these wars? And surprisingly, people know that is because it is what is happening within us that comes out. You see, I thought Eckhart Tolle put it very nicely when he said, when there's a collective ego goes on, like in Germany with Hitler, they all felt superior when they were with him, and so they collective ego is like that, and they are not in their consciousness. Then wars break out. And that kind of identifying with the ego rather than the real consciousness or the being we are behind has led to the wars that cost us 130 million people in 20th century. I was not surprised. I was really blown away by that number, but the phenomena was real, and that's why ancients, what they did was they understood what is the phenomena of non-violence, and that was the one of the first principles in yoga. The ahimsa. That means you don't want to commit something violent to in either in your thought, in your speech, or in your action to any other living being. That was the ideal, and they measured to that, and they showed that there is a life possible like that. But then other people who are not into that philosophy, they invaded and they kind of occupied these people who are non-violent, peaceful, but then they have to have a clan of people protecting them and all that. That was there. But the ideal of non-violence, if you can cultivate in here now in our hearts and minds, I think we will reduce the violence quite a bit, not only in ourselves, within our families, within our country, within our world as a whole. Okay, this may sound altruistic, but it's not really altruistic. It's more like a fact, really. So the amount of money we pay for the wars, that is taking away a lot of money from our education needs and also research needs and how we can improve our life as a whole. That's also taken away from us. So this is how I look at it. And if you look at it, if each individual person really thinks about their own inner self, and most of them will say, I don't have any impulses of violence towards other people when they are living. I want to live with a kind of atmosphere where we are friends, we are peaceful, we are sharing everything, that kind of thing, right? Then the life looks beautiful, and we all agree with that. That is happening all the time. But we don't pay attention to the inner mechanics, like the ancient did. They said there is a body, there is a mind, and we form ego and identify it. With the ego, we associate all the things that we think. This is our country, this is our house, these are my family. So we divide by identifying with the ego. But in reality, we are all human beings in one energy. Once you transcend that ego and you land up in the being, then you will be with everybody else too. That kind of thing that people talked about and executed in their life too. Hi, Tiffany. How are you?
Hey, Dr. Rao. I'm doing okay. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well. So this is a big topic we are not able to cover in 1 hour, but I wanted to see the opinions of everybody. So I was just expressing how big it is, but then it starts with each individual. So if you understand it, at least we can start being nonviolent in our life and then go from there. So what do you think about that?
Yes, sir. Can you please repeat? I just popped in, so
Yeah.
I think I missed the original question.
Yeah. Why are so many wars all the time? Why are they happening all the time? That was the question. Can we do something about it at our individual level and understand? But if you look at the philosophers, ancient races, they all said one thing: all the violence starts within the man, in his interior. So the moment you identify yourself being one nationalist, then you are separating yourself from other nations. The moment you identify I am particular faith, then you are separating yourself from other faiths. So that division is caused. Then when the division is there, there is a conflict that happens. So find out in your own heart, do you have any identification which is contributing to these divisions? So that is, it's not blaming people, it is how the human psyche has evolved and formed these nationalist countries, and then within the nation within different states, and within different states different towns and cities, and within the families also so many divisions, right? So that is what is going to be in the book, tracing the history of the war, the origins of war, at what stage there was people with non-violent movement, there are people with violent movement. What happened to the cultures that has a non-violent movement, what happened to the cultures that has violent. And currently we are violent. All over the world there are wars. So that's why we have to take a look at it, and then not thinking like it's happening way out there, but it's happening with us. Even now, our inflation is increased because of the Ukraine war. It's contributed to that. Right? So we are directly affected by the war in Ukraine, but we may not realize that. But it may be much worse if it expands much more to other European countries. So you see the question, Tiffany?
Absolutely. So you're asking what causes us to have war? Is that right?
Yeah.
Well, this is a wonderful question, Dr. Rao, and I think that war is it's a money making business.
Yeah.
Sometimes, and sometimes it's other things, like you said. But it's really, I believe that if more people sat down and did meditation, they would be better connected to themselves and their soul, and they would be more self-aware.
Yeah.
And really believe there would be less violence in this world.
Yeah. You're absolutely right. Because if you are self-aware, that is the piece missing, because everybody is identifying with the thought product of the ego and missing that awareness, which is their self, which is themselves too. That is a little beyond the thought. But everybody wants to be established in their ego, and they are not even aware of that. But then they may say, oh, I'm not contributing to the war. But then this identification of separation, like I am myself, this is me, this is my views, this is what it is, then you are establishing yourself separate from the universal oneness that we have, and thereby the division. And division spreads to families, to the societies, to the districts, to the states, to the countries, and then entire wars breaking out. And you also said about the money machine. That is very true. Who is the person who is going towards the money, and that person is also identifying with his egoic needs of accumulating of so much money. Even it could be a country. You could say, I want oil for my country. I want to have all that. So I'm going to go and make a war between two countries so that they will become big. And then I can get all the oil from them. Even that's also identifying egoic desires, egoic needs, and then going with that. So in that way, in meditation, what it is we want to understand that what is that we are beyond this body and mind, beyond this egoic self. Mind is also included that. And then going and being self-aware. That is exactly true. So sit down, reflect, contemplate, and think on what's going on within our own minds, within our own interiors, and then really realize this and then come to that. But very few people can do that. Even those few people also are influencing the entire world. So if your leadership, some of them take it and then examine it, then they may change, and then they may bring the change to it. That's what happens, right? Some of the democratic values were felt by some people, and they wanted to bring them on, and then they made laws, and they made kind of everybody can follow and can have a decent society. So that's the key: turning inward and meditating or being self-aware, and then find out our own limitations within ourselves, and then get them out. You're absolutely right, Tiffany. So non-violent is just take some time off every day and see what's going on with your mind. Are you doing anything to contribute to violence, even to the people around you, to the family with you, or to your inferior workers, or lower grade workers, somebody working for you? And all those things we can trace. And this ancient practice of having a simple life and higher thinking, That made all the difference. Okay, now we have made very high living and consuming and then spending entertainment and all that. But when it comes to serious thinking, they want to run away. See how many people are attending these rooms too, even though it's advertised, because people are not really interested in deeper thinking, but more like a superficial fun entertainment. Yeah, for, it's a place when you have, but when it comes to our existence, our life on earth, our joy, that's all being robbed by this careless attitude of not really looking deeper. So that's why what you said about being self aware, being mindful or meditative, that really helps you to follow your own habits of thought. You know what Ramana Maharshi said one time? What is the biggest hurdle for the practice of this self realization or enlightenment? And he said, habits of thought. So this violence we are talking about, even if we think like somebody is bad, like a Muslim is bad, a Christian, a Hindu is bad, then you are separating ourselves. You know, I remember very well one talk I read about Krishnamurti. Gandhi was assassinated in India at the time. So there are so many people around Krishnamurti. It's a national tragedy, right? So they were all pulled down because they were all thinking Gandhi will be there and he will lead them into something nice, prosperous India. Only 2 or 3 years ago, they got the independence. 47, I think they got. 1950, he was assassinated. So they went to Krishnamurti, wanted to understand. Then he said, "You're all responsible for that." And they said, "Oh, how could we be responsible? We are not there." No, no, you are identifying as a Hindu or Muslim, right? All of them said, "Yeah, we have our faith." Thereby, you are dividing among yourself, and that resulted in this violence because Gandhi was killed by a Hindu thinking that he was favoring Muslims. You know, so Muslims and Hindus are not getting along and as one country people, but like they are more faithful to their faith than to the country. And that's why millions died because of that identification. So he brought very quickly because those people should be able to say, no, I don't practice a particular faith. I may take the wisdom from each faith, but I don't identify myself. I identify myself as human being. And then I will do. But then,
Exactly.
yeah. So that's the division, Tiffany, that we see all the time going on. And once you not don't have divisions within you, you can accept anybody, right? Anybody. For us as a doctor, that is a practical matter. Whoever comes to me, I'm not going to say what you are, which country you are, or what faith you are, or what kind of gender. All those things is not matter. It's a human being needing some help because he's suffering, maybe physically, maybe simple cough, or maybe having dying with a heart attack. Whatever it is, we know that they are suffering. So then you reach out as a human being and tell them what they have to do and then work for them. And also, if you really accept them without any divisions like that, they have some healing effect on them too. Immediately they feel like, oh, somebody is caring about us, somebody is taking care of us, you know. So more than the skill of the medicine, it's the attitude with which you approach the patient makes a lot of difference. Okay. Did you think about the wars, Tiffany, as a whole?
Well, everything you're saying, I mean, you know, the things that separate us,
Yeah.
that causes judgment.
Yeah.
So it causes disconnection, you know? Yes, all of that is very, very true.
Yeah. See, we don't let this sink in because we just join somebody's society or somebody's saying that these are my political views, I'm going to change the society and all that. But they don't see, they may be talking about bad about other people, and then they were making us rail about them. Some people might have had some bad things happen to them, but not all people are like that. But the way we kind of identify ourselves, you know, for example, I came to this country in 81, right? And then I kind of became a citizen in 85 because I was there for 3 4 years. I think that I got the eligibility or something. Then I got it. I joined it, and then I kind of took a citizen because it didn't matter to me which country, because I'm going to be here, I'm going to be there. But both countries, I love them for different reasons. I love India for some reasons. I love America for some reasons, but I don't like them, both of them, for some reason. But doesn't mean. Then Krishnamurti came along and he talked about what is the falseness of our identifying as a nation, as how it is contributing to the world violence and lack of peace. I thought that was very good. He said, like tribals used to live within their own community, like 50 people in one tribe, another people, 75 people. They separate themselves because they belong to this tribe. And then they have competition, they have fights, they have violence and all that, right? But then that was the very, very non-evolved state. But now, people who are evolved, he talked about why do you have to be patriotic? Why can't you be loyal to the human tribe? I thought that was very correct. And then immediately, all that fervor about patriotism, all that, it's a very unpopular thing for people. But if you really look at it, we are all only one human tribe. Once we realize that, then we are going to see. This is the ancient side. They said, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. That means the entire world is one family. Even in the rooms I go to, they want me to agree to their mind structure, what mindset they have, which is very for me, any mindset, even mine or anybody's, is a limited thing. We are bigger than the mindset, or we change our ideas all the time, right? Which you kind of grow. So we have to say only this particular thing is this belief is only the correct one, and I'm going to identify. I'm going to call myself this particular faith, and then divide, contribute to the divisions of the humanity. That's what's happening. So ancient said all human beings are one family. Modern thing is more like a tribal thinking. This is mine. I want to separate. I want to fight. If somebody threatens to take it, so that feeling of me and mine was there in the modern. It is going on, dividing people to the point of nuclear family. Within the nuclear family, again, between father and son, between daughter and son, there are so many divisions, especially when it comes to properties. We see the division, that they are only thinking for themselves. They are not thinking for the whole welfare of the family. That's a very common thing we're seeing. This is the root of that. How ancient had an evolved consciousness and thinking, and we fell out of that. What I'm inviting people is, examine that. Look at that. Don't do it just because somebody says, or even me or anybody. What I'm saying is, we got to get out of tribal thinking and more of global thinking, and then act locally. So that's the thing I talked about last time too. Global thinking and local acting. So that's the one is not there. They would just want to identify. Even on the social audio app, I see people want to gather together their own mindset, their own level of faith and all that. And then they want to separate everybody else because they are good to each other. And then they go and pat each other and allow the ego to grow. That means you are separating yourself more from the real source. Make sense, Tiffany, what I said?
Yes, absolutely, Dr. Rao. But I think that, this is a message that it is relevant for sure.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of people are so busy.
Yeah.
They keep themselves so busy that they don't take the time to hear this type of message.
Very good point, Tiffany. You brought in something very important, because the question comes, if we know that it sounds commonsensically correct, and we see the result of people dying, when they respond, suppose their own die in the war, then they come out and say, this is not good. Like the Brady bill came because Brady was hurt and he was a Republican. Up until then, he was supporting gun proliferation and all that. But then once he is hurt, he almost lost his life, then he turned against us. So even to look at all the victims and everybody, they feel personal loss, they come. That's where it is problem. What are we occupied with? Are we occupied with some livelihood only, or we don't want anything beyond that? That is the question. If you can make a livelihood, fine, but then beyond that, what about the situations that are happening in the world? Why can't you feel somebody else's loss is yours too? Because somebody died in the war, you can feel that too. This attitude only, I will worry about my things and then let on do that, keeps them occupied. And then what they do, instead of investigating some things in their own life, something in their own mind, and going inward, they go outward for entertainment, for addictions, for relief, and all that.
Exactly. I just made a post about this on Instagram today,
Yeah.
Dr. Rao.
Tell me about it.
I made a post on this because it's the chronic busyness. Chronic busyness. And I don't know, Dr. Rao, what do you think about for me it was getting sick that woke me up. Because I couldn't leave my house and I for a while couldn't even leave the bed. So what do you think that it is? I mean, do you think this is part of some people, their soul journey, this life is not to wake up to that? You know what I'm saying? Yeah,
it's a fundamental movement from ancient to now. If you identify that, it's like a inward or to outward. See, suppose you are able to get out when you are not sick, you have activities occupied your mind, and you go and make a living, you go and make a skill, you go take a pride in your work, and you do everything outward, right? That's okay. But then human beings are not just outward. An animal can go and find his food, and after he takes the food, he will relax. But what our problem is, we have this mind going on all the time. See, we don't know how to control that. That's why we occupy with things that are there. And also, there's so much propaganda about everything. They say you are very good if you are very patriotic, and if you talk only about your country, but hurt the other countries, that's okay. Or if you say, oh, this faith is good, so just come here, then if you join us, then we'll support you. So those kind of temptations that people have the need of belonging to something, right? So before, I was like, I should be with doctors, I should be with informaticians, I should be with yoga practitioners, like that. Why do I have to be? I can be everything and then really not separate anybody. So that separative thinking gone, then you have everything with you. Like, for example, I'm not lonely because I know I'm connected with everything. So I'm not separate at all because I'm including everything. That kind of separative thinking, people take advantage, and they propaganda to the politicians, make you hate each other so they can take advantage of. Basically, this inward outward movement is very important. What they did, the ancients, I examined them, they went into themselves and then transcended their ego, and then reached states of meditative where they perceived a lot of universal truths that are applicable to everybody, and they kind of take them out and report. Even now, if we really read them, they are ever new. For example, they say, yesterday I was reading something on Kane Upanishad, and in that, these fundamental questions come. What are we? When did you come out? What are the things that are important in life? All those things they answered thousands of years ago, but then they were taken, interpreted according to the modern ego development. And that's where the problem is. Even now, people feel like we are separate countries, separate people and all. You know what the NASA scientists said? This I always said, because I was so impressed with this statement. They don't belong to any particular nation. Americans, Russians, Indians, Italians, anybody went into the space. The moment they left this Earth, and then they were looking at the Earth from outer space, they had this spiritual feeling. They felt the union absolutely right away, and they said, See, from here, we are only one and we are all in one globe. But out there, in our mind, so much of separativeness that we are fighting with each other.
Right.
So this turning inward is very difficult for people because they're always going out. They think something out there will make them happy. Something out there will make them feel contented. Something out there will resolve my sadness or loneliness and all. But the trick is knowing how to turn inward and how to calm the mind and then reach for the deeper intelligence that human beings have the capacity to do. And that is very blissful once you touch that. It is peaceful, serene, and very intelligent, and also very calm and very blissful in nature. So that is something very significant that they did to identify that. And they said that is available in every human being. And in that oneness, we are all one. That particular being, we are only one being. And then not like that consciousness that goes through all of us and then creates this body mind. And then this body mind, this life is okay, but after this life is gone. Then the consciousness takes another life, like that, you know. So once you do that conscious being inside, then you won't have this chattering mind. You won't have this urge to go out and do things, urge to do. You can do things, but with the awareness, I am doing it as a conduit, not like I am the ego doing it. You know, like for example, I'm coming and presenting these ideas, these thoughts I'm having. I don't have to really do that by myself. I'm calm and quiet, very peaceful inside because I live in that inner being I'm talking about all the time. I talk to people, everybody knows about I'm talking about it. But then their chattering minds want to understand at that level, but they got to go beyond that and then grasp it as the truth they can see. It's not about information. It's not about something statement. It's not none of us. It's already there, and we are all one in that. See, those astronauts when they went out of the Earth orbit and then saw it from the space, they felt that right away. They had this spiritual crisis. This is our Earth, beautiful blue Earth that has all the beautiful things that the nature has created. But then we are spoiling it because we think we are separate.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, and that's why I asked you, like for me, it took my health.
Yeah.
For some people, they have like a near-death experience, or, there's different things that wake people up. You know what I mean?
And Tiffany, you are very right, because this is something, there was a big discussion on what is the role of suffering in human evolution, right? Not that you have to suffer, but the suffering really gives you an opportunity to look at life. For example, if you think, oh, I'm so young.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm so young, I'm so dynamic, I have such a beautiful body and all that, right? And then that will be shown, these are not really permanent, later on they will be shown. Then you'll be very depressed if you are only egoic consciousness. On the other hand, if you take that as an opportunity to transcend the ego and really touch the inner, you can be like Stephen Hawkins, for example. Okay, he was paralyzed from head to toe, right? He was only able to move his eyes, and with that computer, he discovered enormous things in space, right? That means he has that consciousness that is working through him, not his body and mind have to be completely. So we have even the small, he used it fantastic, right? So there's a question of taking that suffering and transcending that to live and also to contribute. That happened to me too. I was very sick in 2014, right? Everybody thought my medical career is over, my contribution to everybody is over, I'll be in nursing home, something like that. I told them, no, I will come back. I'll come back. I don't know how much time I got. But I came back in 1 month. I started to see patients in my clinic. I still ran that 14 to 19. I ran that big clinic. And then the 19th, I sold it off voluntarily because I don't want to get into the new things that are happening, right? Everybody is dictating us to how to do the patient care. They are not paying us enough to keep the clinic run. All those things are there. So, but after I went, I found this bigger platform where I can talk about prevention, where I can talk about wellness, where I can talk about less suffering in your body, mind, and all that too. And also present what I learned from the ancients, which is working for me. I came out of that illness mainly because of the micro yoga, deep breathing, and being in the present. See, I tell my patients all the time, suppose you have a diagnosis made, don't jump to conclusions. Don't let your mind take over, right? Deal with what is happening and then repair that particular thing. Suppose you have a cough, find out why the cough is, find out what can we do about it, and then do the small thing first. Then you will be in charge of it. Otherwise, if your mind says, oh my god, I may have cancer, I may have bronchitis or some other disease that comes into your mind, then what happens? So you will be thinking so much about it, then you don't have the energy to deal with what's the problem. That's why suffering actually can be overcome by overcoming our constant chattering mind. And thereby you can realize who you are. So suffering is a means for you to show who you are if you turn it like that. Otherwise, if you allow the mind to go negative, if I mind to go chatter all the time, then actually body disease gets worse. This is why they talked about natural healing, Tiffany. That's a very important. I was talking to my sister and my wife this morning because we just talk about these philosophical things every day, right? My sister is 80 years old, but she thinks I am her guru, but I'm just sharing things, So I was telling her three healing things are important in Ayurveda. Number one is, first one is this: know who you are. Once you know you are that conscious being, all your healing flows through that, right? That's one thing. Second thing is, use your intelligence. Suppose I was showing them, my wife made something with all carbohydrates called upma, very standard dish in India, Indian cooking. But if she is making it every day, then I brought to her attention because I'm aware I'm only eating carbohydrates. I said, no, I would rather have some fruits rather than this. So that is the intelligence that we want to use by using all the modern knowledge we have, all the ancient insights we have. Use it. That's what I do. I'm a modern man. I live with all the technology and all these things. But at the same time, I don't want to be blinded by this propaganda, these money-making people. I want to say what is really happening. Exactly. You know what it is. What our own intelligence has to. Third thing is, the third thing is time. Are you living in the past and the future, or are you living in the present? Are you allowing time to dominate you? That means you are going into the past and staying there, this is it. Or you're going to imagine something in the future and say that. So these three way of healing are very important. So what I did there in my wellness, I was trying to transcend my mind, which is going to go all over, right? So I want to be in the present. That's one thing. Other thing is intelligence, because when you take deep breathing, the superficial chatter of the mind stops. And then your deeper innate intelligence, not just I am intelligent, but everybody has that will come out. And the third thing is, I'm always in the present, right? So those three things, okay, using the intelligence, being aware of who we are, and being in the present, all those things help.
Right. Yes.
Tell me more about your transformation. What happened at the time?
Well, I want to ask you, Dr. Rao, because you're a medical, allopathic doctor.
Yeah.
And I know you're from India, which is wonderful because, I used to want to go to medical school. I have a master's in public health and epidemiology and biostatistics. And me getting sick prevented me from going to medical school, but in a way it was maybe good because I learned a lot of the natural healing techniques. Yeah. And that's mostly what I've done to get better is non-prescription things. So, I mean, do you think one day the allopathic medical schools will be more open to these natural, like
Oh yeah,
Ayurveda and these other things.
oh yeah, oh yeah. No doubt about it. Because there's already so many people are going about it. Only thing is, people have to wake up. Suppose individual patients like that, you have to wake up and say, my health, I will take care of it. I don't let other people dictate that. So that is health conscious means that you got to understand five things I will tell you. These are the 5 points I'm going to put a post, I'm going to tell you now. One is, what is the nutrition that you are eating? Is that having all these elements that can cause cancer? No. There is so much information, so much. Be natural, grow them yourself, and eat on all that. But basically, that's one thing. Second thing is, your body wants comfort, but make that body exercise. Okay, that's the second thing. And the third thing is, understand deep breathing gives you real good energy and also stops your thought. That's why practice deep breathing. These are all, none of them are really difficult, really. These things are, first thing is just to make sure what you're eating is good, and just get up and walk, move your body, and deep breathe. And the fourth thing is, people misses, relax both the body and the mind.
Right.
Yeah. And the fifth thing is the main thing for us, is that meditate and transcend the ego and stand up in the awareness. So these are the 5 yoga points I'm always talking about. Okay.
Right.
And the other three elements I said about Ayurveda built on, people don't understand because they don't think that they have an intelligence that they can apply. But you have to cultivate these healthy habits, because mind is one part of it, it's not everything. People mistake it as everything, and they end up, and that breeds all this separation from away from our real source, which we are all in one. And that's why they follow that faith, that belief, and all that. But individually, you have to do it yourself. That, I think, ancient showed very well of how to go within ourselves, find who you are, and from there being healthy. Other thing is with this, once you end up, you are the awareness, you are the being, then your mind, habits of mind, they're all under your control. So you can manage them better, and you don't produce self hormones that are harmful to you. I did a first talk on wisdom. Self-realization is the healthiest state. Obviously, everybody thought it's a woo-woo. They call this woo-woo stuff or something.
Exactly. Yeah, the woo-woo stuff.
But that is the look at me as an example. 67 and a half now, I think. And then I don't have any medication. I had health problems.
Exactly.
I overcame them. I don't have health problems now. But down the lane, my taking care of my body, everything is improved because I had that incident in 2014. I learned, I quickly applied them, and I'm diligent. See, my wife makes something that I'm aware this is not good for me. That's my responsibility. It's not her responsibility to look after everything for me. She can make those things, but you can choose, right? Why do I have to give all of blame on her? I just said, this is not good for me. I will take fruits today. That's good.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That.
Well, and that's the thing, Dr. Rao, is I think the pandemic helped people wake up.
Yeah.
And I think, little by little, people are waking up. I mean, I have a lot of friends that I've met because of my own health challenges, and they're all waking up to a lot of things,
exactly. Yeah. This new thing we heard about quiet quitting. Quiet quitting from the hustle of the jobs and all that. I'm glad, Tiffany, you are in epidemiology, right? So I will say something. Even now, Fauci was interviewed, and he was saying, I like Fauci because I know him since '84 when he first came on the HIV. And ever since I know him, I follow him too, because he was from the immunology and the infectious disease, right? So I was very interested in immunology because of the yoga background. And HIV really revolutionized our understanding of immunology. But ancient yoga practitioners knew about the immunology, and they practiced certain things to stimulate the all the lymph nodes and everything that is involved in our thymus, our spleen, and all those things, right? Uh, I know about it from the yogic point of view. Immunology is a big deal because they always
Right.
talk about self-healing, self-healing. Epidemiology, if you take it, he said, if only we knew, no, if only we do what we knew. We know if we vaccinate everybody. He said it's only 67% received at least one shot. And of them, only 50% among the 67% who receives vaccine, only 50% has the boosters. So,
Right.
I mean, that's fundamental, right? If we know what works, like taking the vaccines if they're available, keeping away the distance, and trying to be intelligent, aware about how we behave, we can prevent a lot of these cases. A lot of them can be extinguished. But then people are don't want to look into that, don't want to really investigate, find out what is truth, what is not. They just blame the science and they don't want to take the vaccines, and then they are spreading the disease and producing these mutations. So there was awareness, lack of awareness. If they have aware, then they would act more intelligently, you know. So it's a,
All right, Dr. Rao. Well,
yeah,
I'm gonna have to get going, but
Yeah.
it's been great,
Yeah.
great chatting with you, and
yeah.
all the best on your new book. I'm really excited for you.
Sure. We're almost to the 51 minutes or so. A couple of minutes I will be there, and then I'll be closing the room. It's only supposed to be 1 hour, you know. So thanks, Tiffany. Thanks for coming up. We had a nice chat. At least that is good. And people are there on every platform, but then how much they will listen to this is up to them, you know. Next week we'll go to the next topic in the book, the third chapter. Okay, I'll put it on the post and then see how many people will show up.
All right.
They listen to this
Okay,
after.
Dr. Rao. You have a wonderful day.
You too, Tiffany. Thanks. Bye. Okay, that's my friend Tiffany, and she brought in a lot of good questions. I thought, you know, and I was able to expand on them. And then I will be seeing you again next week with the third chapter of the book, you know, and then all the discussions, whatever they, even she contributed 3 or 4 things very nicely. So I'm going to talk to her about that too privately also, if possible, and we'll see what happens. You know. Basically, I will reiterate my purpose of it is, if you take the modern life, I am seeing a lot of damage, lot of suffering, amount of mental health problems, amount of wars and destruction, and amount of lack of peace within each individual. You know, so many things I'm seeing. I'm only responding to them. But if you take my personal life, you know, so I'm at a stage where I'm basically don't have a chattering mind, aware all the time, and really peaceful and calm. And there's a bliss that happens once you know these things. You know, you don't have to declare yourself as enlightened, or we have overcome it. None of that. The way we live becomes more intelligent. The way more awareness of what we are doing, and we will be more of not blaming others, but looking at ourselves not in a self-indulgent or self-blaming, but more like a understand what is love is, where we are all one source, and from that source you can see you have no division in your heart. That means you are embracing everybody, equanimous to everybody. All those things were explored by the ancients. You see, that's the thing. The evolution of human spirit has really went very high in ancient time, and that was there for us to tap into. And modern life has improved facilities, comforts for some, but many people still suffering with hunger. Many people suffering with minimal, resources and all that. There's a tremendous inequality around the world. Only few percentage of people are enjoying maximum wealth. There was a statistic: 6% of the world are enjoying 60% of the world's resources, so we can see how innocuous there's no equality, right? So that's one thing. Is that have to be like that, or can we be more intelligent about this? To awaken all this, take personal responsibility, ask at our level what we can do. Can we think globally and act locally? That's a simple life outwardly, and higher thinking, or I would say higher awareness, because thinking has limitations, right? So I would say higher awareness. I used to say simple living and higher thinking, but beyond thinking, there's this awareness. Then thinking will be automatically good for you. Okay, that's what I wanted to say. That's what I wanted to present to people, and so hopefully you all agree with me and look at things, in our own way. Okay. Um, so, anybody else has any questions or any thing you want to say? You can come on to. Jay is there and Naomi is there. Um, Anybody wants to come up, I will send an invitation to her. Yeah, Jay also wants to come. Okay. Okay. Hello, Jay. How are you?
I'm very well.
Yeah.
Interesting room title.
Yeah.
It's my first time in your room, so forgive me if I ask some obvious questions.
Yeah.
I'm a Hindu by birth, and I'm not particularly religious, but I do like to ask questions.
Sure.
About ways, ancient understanding. Excuse me, I've got a bit of a cold. So, what direction are you coming from? Are you actually solving medical problems, or are you talking about more existential and spiritual type problems?
I'm talking about human suffering, whatever it could be medical problem, physical problem, but then there's so much human suffering because we don't know who we are, and then we allow our thinking run all the life, and we are always going outward, but we are not really turning inward, and that is what the ancient explored to the nth degree. And we are not tapping that kind of wisdom even 1%. I don't want to look at anything like only as Hindu, because if you look at everything, Hinduism came later. I'm talking about centuries ago when they said Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. That means all human beings are one tribe. Anywhere they live in the world. I think that is the modern view of things too, because we all together now on the app also I can talk to any nationality that come on here without really identifying who they are and all that. Just a question of understanding and really giving room to each other's point of view, and try to understand, not condemn them because they're such a way. So all those things ancients taught, I just want to bring notice to that and bring it to life, because I am applying them in my life. I'm asking others to look at it. If it is good for them, then they can do that.
Sure. So this falls well within my remit by understanding my want.
Yeah.
You've raised a new point for me, which is I tend to come in from, I'm a 52-year-old British-born Asian.
Yeah.
I was born a Hindu, but I wasn't practicing for 50 years.
Mm.
And then about middle of last year, I started asking questions about the Hindu religion. So I've done a little bit of research and organized information. I'm very pragmatic, natural problem solver. So I painted a process, what Hinduism effectively is, right? And then follow the process and hopefully pop out the other side with a level of consciousness which they can say is unified with the universe.
Yeah.
So I got that. I understand that as a process. And what you've done is you've introduced a new concept, which is a time before Hinduism.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. So I'm now interested. What's your compass point? What's your factual foundation stone, if you like.
Yeah.
Are we talking thousands of years? Are we talking a particular? I know the Earth has been around for 4.5 billion years.
Yeah.
So are you talking about in that time frame, or are you talking about further back?
Look at this way. There is a man called Thomas McCabe or something like that. I hope I'm saying the right name, but it's a Mecca or something like that. He kind of responsible for modern Indian education, British way in India. Okay, he had no knowledge of this ancient wisdom I'm talking about. He doesn't understand the culture. He doesn't understand the things that they were doing and all that. But he said, "Oh, all that knowledge they had was not even one rack of books that we have in our library." That's a really ignorance, right?
He was dismissed it.
Then what? Basically he didn't know. He dismissed it. The consequences our modern Indians are suffering is they don't know about Aryabhatta, who is 1500 years ago. He invented zero. Okay, he's an astronomist, right? But I like Einstein too, but we all know Einstein. And we don't know Sushruta, who is a plastic surgeon, who first invented plastic surgery and cataract operation way back. I have his grandas too. What it is the bookish writing is from the intellect. But what the ancient sayings were not from the intellect, but beyond intellect. So once you understand that, then that intelligence is there for everybody, only not tapped. Don't know anything. And then now we have become second-hand minds because we don't know our own potential. Ancients have shown that. So for example, this man is stating like that, what he wrote in the book is, I want Indians to be in their bodies and in their color Indians, but in their culture, in their opinions, in their everything else, they should be like Britishers. But then he was talking about basic attending to the lower centers of the existence, where making a living, procreating, and then enjoying something and go. But these are much higher evolutionary people. They went into Antahkarnas, they call. Antahkarnas means finding out from the deep meditative state what comes through. One example, I'll give you a modern example, is Ramanujan. He was worshipping the goddess and then meditating all day and then working also. But his meditation was severe. When he slept, he dreamt his goddess came and wrote formulas on his tongue. He actually got up in the morning and reproduced them. And he sent it to Thomas Hardy, the physicist at the time, who was famous.
I'm aware of this. Mathematician.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Say what happened there was, Ray J, they kind of felt, how did he get it? And he asked, he told the truth, And later on, they wanted to decipher his formulas. It took almost 70 years to figure out some. Some of them are still not deciphered. They're all these black holes.
So your evidence there is that the guy was obviously a gifted mathematician.
Yeah.
He was untrained.
Yes.
But the trained fellows of Oxford and Cambridge, they wanted not just the answer, but the proof, the process, the journey that your answer
you see, what
to get to this end point.
My point is,
he was failing a little when he first went to Cambridge and Oxford.
Yeah.
But he learned how to do it.
Yes.
But ultimately, no one ever asked him the question, where did you get your inspiration from? And that's when it was exciting, because rather than turn around and say, it's from me, no, he turned around and said, it was given to me in my dream.
No,
that point, the leap of credibility for the English.
Yeah, you see, I'm a more
was too much. They couldn't understand it and they couldn't believe it. But if you speak to any reasonable average Indian in any household, there's an element of every day, I've got to get up, I've got to make my living, I've got to watch TV, I've got to educate myself. And there's an element of spirituality. And you can look at any one of these average Indians, and if you introduce the concept of you're talking to God,
Yeah.
right? Well, that's a universal thing
Yes.
across Christianity, Judaism,
Mm.
Hinduism, any religion. There is an element of God, and so people will recognize that.
Yeah.
But then if you then say application, well, God talked to me. He gave me some tangible evidence, some tangible something which I can then bring into reality for everyone else to share with.
Yeah.
And that's when they don't get it. They don't get it. They don't understand it. But there is a process.
You know what?
And
Later
whether
on
you
also.
want to believe
No.
that spark in your head,
Yes.
that inspiration, if you like, is down to you,
Yeah.
or is it down to your soul as a spiritual entity,
Yeah.
or is it down to the God?
Yeah.
See, universal consciousness, if you call it.
Let me explain that. Let me explain
where it comes from.
Jay, let me explain that phenomena of the universal intelligence. Yoga has this very nice understanding of the mind, how it. As a physician, as a geriatrician, I have seen a lot of dementia. So I was very fascinated with what yoga explained to me, and then personally it benefited, and also a lot of my patients benefited too, because they said, okay, you have 4 components, main things, but the last component is what is called chitta. That is beyond the first 3 components of manas, buddhi, ahankara, and chitta. These 4 are there. First 3 are, manas is your memory, all your past, and all of that, right? That is the thinking and all that. And then understanding, your ability to know, and all that is buddhi. That is the intellect. Ahankara is if you identify yourself with something that breeds and then takes another form. Most of the modern people are in that. So even Thomas Hardy was also in that. They don't have this idea of chitta, because you got to transcend your ego to really know what chitta is. That happens, and you don't have too much identification. That's why he was not having any ego, Ramanujan. He was not saying, oh, what they're going to say, they're going to believe me or not. No, none of it. He's just going to be like a devotee of his goddess. That's why in religion, it's supposed to transcend the ego. Because he transcended it, he has no defense. Nothing he wants to defend. So he's truthfully told, no, she came in my dream and wrote it on my tongue, and I'm writing it down. Even now it happens, So, but there's no process of this formula is evaluated and all that. But then later on, they figured out how they can commit to that. But then that was after. But this was not like all the scientific insights and all that. They happen just like that, and that is from the universal intelligence that was there. See, when I talk about ancient thousands of years ago, they had this perception when they were meditating, and then they spoke about it. That's why they called shrutis. Other people listen to them. See, modern writing of imagining something from the thought level or putting matter together from your experiential level, that's different from this shrutis, which were divine revelations, like Moses had revelations like that, so that first there is a word, they say, first there is a, there's so much about the sound and all that, which is all true. And then what they did with that, they did not use it for their personal aggrandizement or personal accumulation of property. That is the Western phenomenon that has come. Ego development and profit development. These two are really causing ravages around the world, not just this. And Macabe was also thinking that their kind of lifestyle is the only one. Actually, it is pulling the human from evolutionary self to basic self. That's why I kind of don't really advocate that kind of lifestyle. I always talk about being natural, being one with the nature, and also really finding out ourselves. Other thing is concept of God. Concept of God, these people invent, there's another thing is there, but it's a little part of it. Actually, there is that element of God in every human being. And once you really touch that, that is what the ancients talked about. Go ahead, Jay, you're saying something.
I'm very much interested in everything that you've said. So I need to clarify and frame it and understand so I keep learning. you said initially yoga, but I think you meant yoga, YUGAS, as in the cycle of life, over thousands of years. Is that what you're talking about?
No. Yoga is yoke, from yoke. That's a union of you, who you really are, and then you are really revisiting that and then going home. Okay, you are not your body and mind only. You are that conscious being behind the body and mind, which, like electricity, it goes through the light, it gives the light. Like that, the consciousness beams through the body and mind.
So that's what I'm trying to ascertain.
Yeah, that's
so
right.
Part of the yugas is a cycle of global consciousness.
That's a different.
Right?
Yugas are different. Yeah, I'm talking about.
That's the area which I want to investigate with you.
Yeah.
And basically, the frame, if you like, the overview for anyone is that we exist in the universe. How we come here is a different question. But, everyone has a state of consciousness, an individual personal one in this life. They have a state of consciousness across many lives, your Atma.
Yeah.
And then you have a consciousness associated with the universe. So you could be on this side of the table as a human being, but on the other side of the table is the universe or God. No. And God has a consciousness. And the process.
Have you heard about Mahavakyas? Mahavakyas ji?
No, sir, I don't. But if you give me a typo, a search string, I will definitely Google.
No, you don't have to Google. This is beyond Google. What it is it's not information. That's what I'm saying. Ancient Vedas had these Mahavakyas. With one word, they described thousands of years of work. Okay, one is Tat Vasi, that is, you are that. You being the individual jiva with the Atma and all that, and that you are not separate from that. That means that is the universal consciousness, but you are actually undifferentiated universal consciousness that is reflecting through you and lighting up your mind and body. That is the essence, they said. Whole thousands of years of work was done on that. But then people kind of created a God outside. It's only supposed to be spirit of God, Nama Rupa. By name, by Rupa, if you make something, the mind can gather. And then they created a God outside of you. But actually, that life force, that godly force that they call Buddhahood or Krishna Tattva or Christhood, it is there in each human being. Or not only being, each living being. So if you can see and identify that, by really overcoming your limited thinking and intellect, then you feel it, not by your thinking, but you feel and realize the reality is within you, and then you are one with everybody and everything. And that was the big revelation they had, and people say it, but it's not supposed to be repeated. It's supposed to realize that state. And so the outward God, everything goes away, and then you will find God within yourself. Not that you are egotistically God, but the God force is the one which is giving you this energy. Like electricity running through the lights, give the light. There's consciousness runs through us, gives us that spark.
So I have to paraphrase this. You said a lot.
Yeah,
so
a lot.
It starts with me, and then it goes outside of me to a God, and then the universe, but then it comes back to me. Is that what you're saying?
No, it is already there, but you are making concept out of it. But the consciousness goes through you and gives you the life, and that is the one which you.
Consciousness is this priority here. It's not my physical self, my body, not even my mind.
Yes.
But beyond that, there's an element called consciousness, and it pervades. It's like the universe is full of matter. Exactly. Consciousness could be just an example of matter. Something that's floating out there.
No. Consciousness cannot be matter. Consciousness is not matter. Whatever is matter is not consciousness.
I'm trying to give you the similarity, but without linking it to matter.
Still,
consciousness is just exists. on a global cosmic scale.
Yeah, you are kind of, look at this. Rene Descartes, the French philosopher, he said, I think, therefore I am. But ancient said,
Yeah.
I exist, therefore I am.
Oh,
Okay?
that's interesting.
Not interesting.
That's
That is the reality. If you look at it, do you have thoughts or thoughts have you?
Oh, that's a good question.
No, for me it's very
but
simple.
I think you're going to say,
Yeah.
my thoughts have me. I am an instance of my thoughts, not my thoughts are an instance of me.
Yes, because I am there. That's why I'm having thoughts. And this is a big deal because Western civilization as a whole made everything based on thought. Eastern civilization, they made everything on the consciousness. That's why they cannot understand, because they want to understand with the thought, but you got to go beyond it to grasp it with intuitive awareness. Very, very,
Yeah.
very, very peaceful, very serene thing once you experience that. I don't have to convince anybody. I just experience that. I know I'm having thoughts. And the moment I ask this, where is this thought coming from? I know it's coming from an inner being. And then it kind of recedes. All the running thoughts and everything go. But I
Yeah.
can use the thought when I need.
See, I'm trying to be
Yeah.
a more disciplined person,
Yeah.
and I'm not trying to solve the day-to-day problems. I'm trying to understand and have. I'm a natural problem solver, so that's my natural approach to anything. Anything can be solved.
Yeah, I am a burnout coach, Jay. So what I do with my people who come to work with me, I teach them how to be not in the thought stream when you wake up, but in the awareness, and that means I am kind of be here and now with the life, what's going on in the present, right? Second thing I teach them is deep breathing, whereby your sympathetic nervous system will be calmed down and parasympathetic nervous system will be stimulated. That way, you won't be as reactive as you are if you let your sympathetic system work. That means you see something immediately, is a danger, something danger to my ego or to my prestige or to my status and all that, right? Then we put on fight or flight thing, and then the sympathetic nervous system will be overflow. So in the morning, be aware and have deep breaths. And then my whole 1 hour of practice in my wellness club, that wellness club, people come and join. I make them do exercise, also the deep breathing and being in the present. That really helps them to make themselves less reactive. Over the day, over the months, they really develop this not reactive, but responsive to the responsibilities that we have. Once you respond with equanimity, with balance, that's what I call inner resilience. That's what I teach them with those things.
So that word again,
inner resilience.
Resilience. Resilience.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a good way to say
Yeah.
what I'm looking for.
And it's important. It's needed for us.
I believe in
Yeah.
breathing.
In this
I'm
modern.
terrible at breathing.
Yeah.
Breathing in a controlled way,
Yeah.
so that I become calm and become focused. I
Yes.
have a certain amount of intellectual acuity, skill, if you like.
Yeah.
So I can look at subjects, but I get distracted quite easily.
Yeah.
And I also terribly, I'm a very competent person in life,
Yeah.
but I do things when I feel like it.
Yeah.
So if you have homework at school, you don't do it in the hours between 5 and 6 after you get back from school.
Do you follow cricket, Jay?
Yeah, and I hate that about me.
Yeah. Do you follow cricket? Cricket.
No, but
Okay,
tell
there
me
is
a
a
cricket story.
there is a player called Virat Kohli, right? He was always pushing himself to the nth degree and pushing his team, always hustle, Zamravia. And then because of that, he burned out, right? Now, yoga teaches you how can you be intensity, with intensity you can do job without the hustle factor. Okay, so then you can do things in an intense way, but not having this focus how I have to achieve, I am the one doing, I will enjoy the fruits. None of it. That's all Western phenomena. The ancient thing is do the things, but do them with such an intensity without feeling the negative effects of this reactive mind. I teach that.
So
I
how
teach
do you get one side of the coin without the other side?
because it's not the
How
other.
does that
No,
work?
it's
How does it physically work?
because you are not your thinking. You are beyond that. You have to be placed in that. Then you can use thinking in your own. Otherwise, thinking will make you react for everything. That's the hustle factor also there. So, for example, if you are in a flow state, you are doing.
For example,
You are in a flow state. You are doing something in flow state. You find there
yes,
is no interfering thoughts at the time, right?
no distraction.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no distraction, no interfering thoughts from you. You are involved in that. You are in the flow. You are enjoying it, and then you, because you all the techniques, everything are already challenges were met with whatever skills you have. They are balanced, or they are really equanimous. But if you perceive some challenge, if you perceive some danger for that, all that, then all the other thoughts come in. Then you have this hazard factor.
I'm a big believer in controlling your thoughts. I'm not practiced, but I have a certain amount of awareness. So I try to avoid distractions, quieten my mind.
I would
don't
say,
necessarily
don't be the
but I want to
controller
do
of,
more.
don't be the controller of the thought. Be aware of the thoughts, and then station yourself in that awareness. Then you can use the intellect, like I'm using my intellect to communicate with you, but I don't feel like I'm threatened or anything. I will just tell you, but I'm not going to convince you because it's up to you to investigate that and find out. But then my thing is, I'm just conveying something to a friend of mine who came here. What's the big deal about I should feel about it? If I'm coming from my ego, then I'm putting so much out there and all that. But that's not the idea. The idea is to just to share with another family member, which is our universal family is one. That kind of attitude. So you can use thought very effectively if you are in charge of it.
Help me negotiate something.
Yeah.
I literally left one of the rooms before, and there were three chaps in there. We're all Indians, and we all share an element of Hinduism. It was very clear that one of them, we'll call him A, his focus was just purely meditation, right? Now, I understand from my research of Hinduism, the Dharma is an ordered life, and some if I can say it rightly, is an ordered life across many lives, yeah? And this guy, in my opinion, wasn't recognizing the fact that there are three ways to get to Dharma, right? And one is by service, the path of service. One is the path of contemplation and meditation. And the third is the path of knowledge, question and ask questions, organize information. I'm open to new ideas, even if you can't prove them, so that I can build layers and build a more complicated organizational structure and understand the bigger picture without actually asking for proof like some scientists might ask.
Yeah. You want me to answer that? I know.
He represented a lower level of understanding, I think.
Yeah.
He was very committed to Hinduism. And I went into the room, and the title of the room, I think, was "Can You Be Happy Forever?" Yeah. And I'm quite happy to put my point across on that. It's a starting conversation or conversation starter. So I said, well, what type of happiness are you talking about? Are you talking about the temporary happiness?
Okay, I know what.
Or are you talking about the happiness across life and into millennia, into the cosmos?
Let me answer, Jay. I got it. What it is? Let me answer it. A few things are there.
No, I haven't stated my problem.
I know the problem. I know the problem.
I said my piece but I felt so unhappy
Oh,
because
okay.
they didn't understand me,
Yeah,
and I felt I knew I had a higher knowledge.
yeah,
And all I was trying to do was generous. I'm not trying to hurt anyone. I'm not trying to undermine
yeah,
anyone's room. You know,
yeah,
I'm completely respectful for anyone with what they say. But I thought I'd educated them, and they just weren't listening. And
yeah,
as a result of that, I felt dissatisfied.
yeah.
Right? So I went into the room with quite a nice level
Yeah.
of happiness.
Jay,
And then I
let
left the
me
room
let
with
me
a level
answer.
of unhappiness because I couldn't explain to them or
Yeah.
convince them.
Yeah.
How do I deal with that? How do
Yeah.
I deal with that?
See,
This
problem
my
is,
problem then.
you let me answer this. This will be clear for you, probably. No, at least it is clear for me. I'm going to convey this to you. There are what are called purusharthas. Okay, and that means various personalities of life people can live, and there are four purusharthas. They said dharma, artha, kama, moksha. Right? Now,
Yes.
listen carefully because this is something you want to pay. First of all, the meaning of dharma is different, as I understood from what you guys are expressing. What it is universal law and what is right to be done. Okay, so leave that alone first. Let us first come to what do people do. They have desires in life. They want to be happy. They want to be, living well. They want to be all of that, right? That is karma, they call it. Based on the desires people want to do, like a sex desire or doing anything, right? That is one thing. Then if you do the pleasure, for example, pleasure is also desire. We want to see a movie and all that. They said you can do it, you will be happy for a while, but then it cannot last. Otherwise, it's not permanent, right? So they said you want to accumulate things. That's the second thing is artha. People want to make money, make so many things, or titles, or statuses, whatever they want to acquire in life. By they think I'll be happy if I make this much money. I'll be happy if I have this financial security. I'll be happy and all. What is evident is even the millennials who make it, after they make the money, they are not happy because they find something else is missing. Okay, these two keep it in mind: karma, artha. But both of these things, if they are done according to the universal law, which is right, what is right, you don't want to hurt anybody, you don't want to cheat anybody, you want to steal anybody, all those as part of the dharma, right? And dharma also misinterpreted as following a faith. That is not what they intended. They intended do your life, live what you want to do, and what you want to do, but do that in a correct way. Then you will be happy at that. But then even this is also temporary because the more you stay at the pleasure, the lesser it will become happy. So the fulfillment from the pleasure is not there. That everybody knows that. And then they introduce something very, very important because modern culture is what? Pursuing happiness outside, pursuing things outside, are fulfilling our desires and all. But they don't get the forever fulfillment. But then they talked about moksha, where it is liberation from your own limited thinking and limited mind, limited, whatever systems. Yeah. But what it is if you do this again and again, then you are in what is called samsara. You take births to get to liberation ultimately. That was their thing, right? But the moksha is the liberation that happens when you understand that your body and mind are your tools. You, as the conscious being, owner of these tools. Once you understand and then transgress the creation thought constructs like ego, like identification, like Hinduism or any other ism. Why do I have to say I know about Hinduism and all, but I don't call myself Hindu. I call myself a human being. That's it, universal person. So that is what they taught me to do. That I don't want to separate myself by identifying with it. That's what I was talking about this today. All the wars, everything, because of this identification. And then what happens is you're a human being, but you have these tools that you can use. Don't misuse them, but really maintain. Then I do exercise, I eat properly, I think way that is appropriate situation, but I don't say my thinking is ultimate or whatever I say is ultimate. Why do I have to say? I don't have to. Then once I transcended the domination of the mind on me, I am liberated. That is what they call moksha. It's not out there in some outer sphere. It's right here in this life. Once you have transcended your own mind, your own thinking, your own feelings, your own, not like suppressing it, not like dismissing them, but understanding them and going with. So they said something very simple, Atyadika dukkha nivrutti. And then body may have a lot of suffering, mind may have a lot of suffering. Atyadika dukkha means extreme suffering. Nivrutti means completely gone because you transcended. And then not only that, there's something very important. Paramananda Prapti. That means extreme bliss is possible in this life. Otherwise, you'll have this restlessness, you have other. See, people don't go the complete picture and they see something valuable and they hold on to it. That becomes an intellectual argument. It's not a realized truth. The realized truth don't have to anybody tell you. You have to realize for yourself. Okay, I think we will close this because I was supposed to stop it at 12. It's 30 minutes behind that. You can communicate with me if you want to, Jay. And my website is bapal.net. Bapal, B-E.
Let me do it now.
B-A-Pal. Pal. I'll spell it out to you. B-E-A.
Bravo.
Bravo. Elephant. Alpha.
Elephant, yeah.
Alpha. And Peter. Again, Alpha. And love.
Can you type it in the chat? Can you type it in the chat? I'm not getting
Oh, sure.
it.
Sure, I will do that. No problem. It's a small thing too. It's not a big deal. So
Yeah.
it's a bapal.net. And if you want to be part of my wellness club, I think that may be appropriate for you because I do executives like you, and then I teach them how to be non-reactive, how to be clear in their mind, and also why do I have to argue with people anyway? They will be fundamental in their own mind. But if you are located in this energy, then what it is Vivekananda taught me this. What he said was, don't condemn them. Understand they are in the path of knowledge, but their knowledge may not be at the level that ancients taught about. But you don't have to show it off to them, or you don't have to convince them.
I'm not trying to show it off.
Yeah.
I'm
No, not you.
literally
Not you. I'm talking about.
a
No.
better person.
Yeah. I know.
I'm thinking about myself,
Yeah. I know.
anger, dissatisfaction,
Yeah.
and through that,
Yeah.
I then react,
Yeah.
say something which can be offensive, or when you try to have a discussion with a friend,
Yeah.
no one is hurt.
Yes.
But the moment you try to force your opinion on someone,
Yeah.
they feel oppressed, and you feel like the oppressor.
Exactly.
And you weren't intended to.
Yeah.
This is
exactly.
my situation with things more than once.
I see that.
And I want to
Yeah.
recover from it. I want to become a better way to present my point. And if they want to take it, they take it. If they don't want to take it, I want to be able to walk away happy to say at least I tried to share a bit of knowledge, my
Yeah.
knowledge. Yeah.
Ask one question.
That's all I want to do.
No, ask one
Because
question.
I'm unhappy,
Jay.
I then, even now, an hour after the conversation,
Yeah.
I'm still talking about it.
Yeah.
And I
No,
don't want to.
Ask one question of yourself. What is
What's
it?
that?
What is it that is getting hurt in you?
They're not listening to me.
Yeah, but what is it that getting hurt to you? Your thought construct ego. Think about it. It's not something negative or anything, but it's a phenomenon. That what is it that in other man that is making him say, my point is right. Meditation is the only thing. That is also his ego, thought construct ego. So he has not called you from that being I'm talking about. It is the thought that is fighting with each other. This is a subtle point, but if you look at it, then you will understand what is Tattvamasi.
I've understood what you said, and I have understood it's ego
Yeah,
that is being hurt
Yeah.
But I have, beside me at the moment,
Mm.
I'm 52. I
Yeah.
have a very strong vein or highway or
Yeah.
path in me, which is to do the right thing and to be a better person,
Yeah.
right? And do the right thing with people. And so I have like a goal, a plan or whatever to do
Yeah.
the right thing in all situations, yeah?
Yeah.
And so I don't want to abandon that because I know it's a good plan. You know, when you want to help myself and I want to help you.
This
as
is the bondage. This is the bondage they're talking about. You are bonded to your own thinking self. But go beyond that, then you will find the real intelligence, the real knowing self, and all that. This is the struggle for all religions, everything point out. But then somebody thinks there's something greater than me and they surrender to that. That also can. But basically, this bigger than ourselves is there within all of us too. Because we are not able to reach that, we also want to think that our intellect is us or our wherein thoughts are us. That is where the liberation is not there, it's the bondage. If you are thinking through the thought constructs, then you are bonded to them. But the moment you are liberated from them, it doesn't matter. You see, for example, I say something, they are saying that, okay, this is what I believe. Fine. I don't have any movement in me hurting, because I will tell you a small story, then you will understand. Buddha was teaching one day, and then he was teaching something, and some gentleman walked in, and he began to argue with Buddha. And after a while, he was not listening at all, and then he kind of got up and became abusive to Buddha. And the Buddha kept silent. They call it a noble silence. And then that man came and close to and spat on Buddha, and even then he didn't react at all. And then that man walked out. So all the disciples who were there were amazed that Buddha did not react at all. And then they asked him. Then he says, if there is no entity that receives those untruths or whatever opinions they have, then where is the entity that reacts? So
can you say that all slowly again, because I didn't understand your accent?
Yeah.
The entity was not there to receive.
Yeah.
You say.
When there is no entity to receive.
There was no entity.
You have a British accent, but I have a Sanskrit accent. That's why it's difficult sometimes.
Yeah. My hearing doesn't work normally.
No, I'll repeat that.
Please say that again.
Yeah, sure. When there is no entity to react, how can there be a reaction? See, he doesn't have this ego construct. He is a Buddha. He is the one who is awakened one. Awakened means what? Awakened from the illusion of our mask-like ego structure. Because he kind of woke up from that, he tells when he comes back to visit his family, he tells the person he knew is not there anymore. To his wife, he tells her, so that person who had family life with her and all that is completely gone. That's why there's a famous saying by Ramana Maharshi about this. He said, just to be yourself, that means your real self within, you just have to die to whatever you are. Die in the sense not eliminate. Yeah, die. Die means not completely go away, but transcend that structure, realizing that's not the reality. The reality within us is completely different from these thinkings, these feelings, and all that.
I'm going to have to think about this. It almost sounds like don't be the person you're born.
Yeah, exactly. No, not even that. Don't be the person.
Be an observer to yourself.
Yeah, don't be that. Exactly, you got it. Don't be the person that you thought you are. You are, for example, your roles are that you're a father. It's a role. But then beyond that, there is a being. So realizing who you really are is the biggest thing that they talk about. You know what they said also? As a human being, your role is to turn inward and realize this true self. That is transcending the ego understanding of. For example, you must have heard about Bhagavad Gita, right? In that, this warrior prince who wants to fight the war for his desires comes and then overwhelmed by seeing his grandpa, his teacher, his brothers, all the he doesn't want to kill them all, and he kind of really. But who is that entity that wants to kill people or not to kill people? And Krishna makes this man see that is not him, but beyond that he is him. Once he sees that, all these bodies, minds, they come and go, but you are going to stay as the conscious being all time. That's why they have a poem called Najayate Mriyateva. That means that which never is born, your consciousness, and never dies. What dies is your body and mind.
I need more examples.
Yeah.
I get it. I definitely understand what you're saying, which is basically.
Yeah, this is not going to be. This is not going to be
I'm
information.
a human body.
Yeah, this is
I
not.
am more than that.
Yeah, this is not going to be
And I
just
can
information.
develop in that consciousness.
Jay, this is not going to be just information that you can learn in a few hours or few months, few years either. It's something that we realize by deep contemplation. You know, that means your superficial thought has to really subside by itself. And so don't be in a hurry. It will come slowly. But if you are interested, come to me.
I had 50 years of unhappiness.
Yeah.
And
I am
ways.
I am 67. I'm 67. Okay, I'm still new.
No, even regardless of your age, my age, my point was that I went through a life of suffering.
Yeah.
You know, all of that is I have no family around me. Yeah. So you know, you spend a life understanding that you're suffering, and then you have to ask questions, and just like Buddha, you try to identify ways to understand and ways to deal with your suffering. And for a long time, I looked and researched all the major religions, and I found I align mostly to Buddhism without knowing Hinduism. Yeah. And so I would but I would try to use Buddhist concepts. And the difference between Buddhism and Hinduism, for me, is that Buddhism doesn't have the concept of I. It has a concept of spiritual Atma, and then it has a concept of the universal Atma, if you like. While Hinduism has all three, I, Atma, and universe, as well. So that's the only difference between Buddhism and Hinduism. I suspect in the way you're talking and you're saying focus on me,
to get rid of it.
Buddhist
to get rid of it. What it is Anatma, what Buddhist said, Atman, actually there is no difference. The void and the Satchitananda they talked about, there is no difference. But it's a very big subject, and I don't think you are going to understand it with a few hours of discussion. You got to have much more investigation into that. You said some word, concepts, but actually these understandings are not concepts. Concept, when you say that, you are in the thinking modality. You cannot grasp these things by thinking modality. You got to go beyond it. Anyway, I have to go now, Jay, because I'm already.
You go, and we'll catch up again. Thank you very much for your time.
Okay.
No. Look at the website. Is that a free service or is that a paid service that you?
There is a subscription per monthly, and then there is a transformation course I do with people. There's a 12-week course. That is the big ticket item I do. But then this one is, I want to get them to wellness orientation. That's why I want them to come do yoga with me, ask questions and all that. That comes every day. I do actually twice a day, morning and evening. So
on Clubhouse?
No. I do it on my own Zoom. That is the subscription. That is a subscription. The Wellness Club. It will be under that. If you want to look at it, you can look it up. Okay.
Sure.
All right.
I'll go through some of these old replays first, I think.
Yeah, I think.
Thank you very much for your
Yeah, I think you should
really
replay this because
question.
Jay, about the suffering and what I talked early in the talk. So you might want to listen to this talk to find that answer.
I will. I'll replay this one.
Okay.
I'll replay this one.
Yeah, I enjoyed talking to you. I enjoyed talking to you, but I have to go. It's a series. I'm 44
No,
minutes.
you go. I can talk and talk. You go. We'll catch up another time.
Okay.
Thank you, my friend.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.